I'm going to start with a joke I once heard, and you may have heard this too, but please try not to yell out the punchline. All right, it's Yom Kippur, there's a synagogue on the Bima, the rabbi's wearing a nice suit, Cantor's wearing a nice suit, president of the synagogue, beautiful, very tasteful, like a skirt, blouse ensemble. Everybody's very nicely dressed. All of a sudden, the rabbi out of nowhere gets overcome with emotion, the spirit of the holiday, and stands up and goes, "Oi, God, I am nothing before you. Oi, oi, God, I am truly nothing. Nothing before your eyes, the throne of your glory." All of the pieties, etc., etc. The cantor, rabbis and cantors sometimes have a thing. Anyway, the cantor, not wishing to be outdone, stands up and says, "Oi, God, oi, I am nothing before you. Oi, God, oi, I too am nothing before you." Yeah, I'm nothing. See, I'm really nothing. And then the president of the synagogue, of course, not wishing to be outdone, stands up. "Oh, God, I too am nothing before you. See how much nothing I am? I'm the most nothing, so much nothing." So all the mucky-mucks in the synagogue are standing and go, "Oi, God, oi, I'm nothing." Then in the back of the synagogue, a beggar stands up, and he says, out of actual emotion, he says, "Oi, God, I am nothing." And on the bima, the rabbi nudges the cantor and says, "Hey, look who thinks he's nothing." Okay. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about humility. Humility is a word that we might think we know, but the definition is a little slippery, and we can sometimes think of it negatively, as low self-regard or a sense of unworthiness that we have. But for Jewish thinkers, humility is something else. Humility is about remembering that we are not the center of the universe. And we stand in relation to other people in our lives, and our actions affect them, and their actions affect us. This is a problem in 2025 in the United States, because this kind of humility is the opposite of the individualism and the consumerism that are promoted in our society. Next slide, please. So let's examine a global issue first. Some of you may have heard me quote David Attenborough, the noted presenter on nature programs, and author and scientist, and knight, I think. And he says that he's seen, during his lifetime, a 70% decline in wild species in the last century. 70%. And recently, I heard another astounding report, because one might think this is only near human settlements, that in remote areas of the planet where there are only bugs and little animals, their populations too have dropped. It is astounding to examine the extreme climate events that are becoming more frequent. And this all together has not been enough for our society to meaningfully change and move in the right direction. We continue to want cheap gas and a new gadget delivered on our doorstep by tomorrow morning if we can get it. But without some meaningful change, we in this room will render Southern California uninhabitable to future generations. I think here of my grandmother, Evelyn Rosner of blessed memory. In the 1980s, I used to have an article of her presenting. In the 1980s, she was fighting global warming through the National Council of Jewish Women right here in Southern California. This was before climate activism was as mainstream as it is now, and she understood that humility was a Jewish value. She had great shoes, but she had a wonderful wardrobe. Like, there are many people who would not have attached the word humble to my grandmother, but in this respect, she was a humble person because she believed that she had to leave a world to her grandchildren that they could live in. And her dedication reminds me that humility is not just politeness, it's a key to survival as a species. Now I want to go a little closer to home. Where are we? Next slide, please. All right. A national example in the arena of public health. Just a few years ago, there were measles outbreaks in California, New York, and these weren't caused by the lack of availability of vaccines, but people choosing not to vaccinate. We all remember this debate from the COVID years, right? The vaccination debate that never really went away. But as Jews, we think about not only our own health risk, but through vaccination or choice not to vaccinate, we may or may not affect the people around us, people who have immune deficiencies of various kinds. Humility here is a key to survival. We don't want to put our immunocompromised neighbors at risk. Judaism teaches that our health choices are about our whole community, and we are commanded to protect the vulnerable in our community. We must remain humble in the face of the desire to ignore this and make a choice that's best for me personally at the exclusion of you, and vice versa. And now let's step even closer to the everyday. Next slide, please. How many of you here have ever taken the train, Metrolink, or Metro, or any of the trains, or public bus, plane, and you've experienced what you see on the screen? It's not always, person doesn't always look like that, but sometimes. Just somebody on the train, phone out, YouTube on, blasting as loud as they can. You wanted to read your book. You thought, I'm going to take public transit, I'm going to read my book, but no. There was a lack of humility. And one might say this is a small thing, but it represents a harshness, a lack of humility that permeates our whole society. You can see a pattern from global-sized stuff to everyday-sized stuff. Humility is something that is missing in our world. We live in a society that says, you deserve a new car, you deserve new hair, you deserve a new phone, you deserve to use AI without worrying about the carbon footprints of AI. How many people have been reading about carbon footprints of AI? If you haven't yet, I recommend it. It is eye-opening and a little scary. A society that runs on you deserve it doesn't have room for humility. Humility is countercultural. Our society teaches us to consume without considering the labor that produced the object that we're consuming, or the carbon footprint of its delivery. But Rosh Shanah pushes back, Judaism pushes back. Tonight, you're here, either online or in person, and being here is an act of humility. You could be at the movies, you could be at the restaurant, you could be at the gym, but you wanted to be here tonight, and you wanted to be here to beat your chest and say some stuff that's kind of negative about oneself, right? We did this wrong, we did that wrong, we did this wrong. But we understand as Jews that humility is needed, and these kinds of exercises in being humble, these forced exercises that are uncomfortable, are necessary for us to remind us of the importance of this value. Next slide, please. The prophet Micah saw this pretty clearly, and he summed up the necessity of humility in the following phrase: do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. Don't stand proudly with a rigid back. Walk humbly. recognize your impact on the world. This, by the way, was actually codified in Jewish law at one time as keep your eyes on the floor when you walk. Walk like this. But we need to be reminded, because it's very easy to remember, to forget, to be humble, and to become very arrogant very quickly, especially in this society. I don't recommend this, because you can bump into trees and stuff. It's a bit dangerous. But we're at the high holidays, and we come here seeking forgiveness. That's something that is really countercultural in this society. Seeking forgiveness in the political world is now a cardinal sin. So here we are, and over the next 10-ish days, our ears are going to be rent by the sound of the shofar, the raw, ancient cry that pierces through our layers of pride. How proud can you be when you're listening to someone blow a ram's horn in 2025? It is absurd, and it is intentionally absurd. The shofar is humility and sound. The cry of the shofar says, look at the world you've inherited, and look at the world you are shaping. Be humble enough to admit that we must do as well as we can for the next generations. So yes, humility means turning down the YouTube video in public. Yes, it means letting people in on the freeway. Yes, it means getting vaccinated and protecting the vulnerable. And yes, it includes remembering that what we consume today can render Southern California uninhabitable tomorrow. The Talmud teaches us piety leads to humility, humility to right action, and right action leads to holiness. So may the shofar awaken in us this year the ability to consider the impact of our actions on others, the courage to make new habits, and the strength to walk with humility. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.